Yep. So, hello everyone. I just want to thank Mark for inviting us to be here, and thank you all for being here today. Like, I'm very grateful, like how we are all excited about this conversation. So before I tell you more about what we are doing with our project, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Devlin, and I am a postdoc at University of Washington, Bothell. And I would like to give my awesome collaborator, Jessica, some time to introduce herself as well.
I hear you. Could you please repeat what you said?
So hello everyone, I'm Jessica Hernandez and I'm also a postdoctoral fellow at the University of Washington, Bothell, working on the Energy and Equity Project. I'm an Indigenous scientist, so I bring in my perspectives as an Indigenous person when we discuss equity in the context of energy justice within the energy and equity nexus. And I'm also happy to be here along with my collaborator, Cha, and I look forward to having this discussion with everyone present in this room.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica. So at University of Washington, Bothell, we are in a collaboration with Seattle Pacific University, and we work on a project called Energy and Equity. And Energy and Equity is like a project where our goals is to create a professional development program for high school physics teacher and support them to integrate equity issue or address equity issue in their energy physics lesson. So starting last summer, we host a 1 week long virtual professional program to work with more than 20 high school physics teachers from all over the US. And we had like wonderful conversation with them about equity, about energy, and whatever they're concerned about. And after that, we hold a 1 academic year long-ish online professional learning community to continue working with their high school teacher, helping them develop curricular that they can actually use in the classroom and talk to their student about equity issue. And so our goal for coming here today is like to share with you the projects, which I just did, but also like want to hear your thoughts about where are we personally under equity landscape, and where are we as the field to think about equity, and especially in the context of energy and energy lesson. Yeah. So I am very grateful for people to be here today, but at the same time, I'm worried that we don't have space for everyone to share their thoughts. So just in case some of you prefer to typing it down, I share with you a document where you can go ahead and edit it and type in, or seeing each other thoughts and all of that. Yeah. So before I start, do we have any question for us so far? Okay, awesome. So I would like to set up a common ground of our understanding, especially when we talk about equity and social justice issue. Sometimes it can sound like too big, like it covered everything and not addressing anything. So how about we spend about like 2 minutes to think about what does it mean for us as educator and as education researcher? Like, what does equity means to you? What does social justice mean to you? And I would invite you to type that in the Google Doc that we just share, and for 2 minutes. And then 2 minutes after that, we're gonna look at each other thoughts, and you can also vote for it if you want them to talk about it. Yeah, so I see people almost stop typing. So I would invite everyone to look at other people, what other people to type down. And if you want to prioritize some thoughts, we can vote like +1, +2. Yeah. There's just so much good stuff in there. I'll give people like another minute to vote. Okay, so first I would like to invite, so there are some of us want to hear this thoughts. So about helping students to see socioeconomic political structures. Is there anyone who wants to speak up for this, or anyone who wants to take the space to reflect on this?
So I think in my experience teaching high school, that like most adolescents, you know, their worldview is not very large, and not even to their own blame. A lot of people aren't afforded the opportunity to kind of see the bigger picture, to see how interconnected things are, and to see uh, the the forces that are pushing and pulling the actions that we take as a society and the choices that we make. And I think that is true whether you're talking about uncovering, Newton's second law in dynamics, because that is also a hidden worldview that they don't have, or whether it's about talking about the influences of culture and oppression or other structures that push and pull on the choices that we make as a society. I see it really as almost the same process of teaching.
I just want to emphasize that there's the space for everyone. So if you want to follow up or speak up, it's all yours. Yeah, otherwise we can invite another person to share about this.
Well, I could say something. I would suggest that
Yes, please.
teaching physics. I taught physics right during the race riots of the early 60s to the late 60s, 50 years ago. And I wonder what have I done in my career so ignorant of the damage I could have done, being inequality, I guess. What have I done that so many people have said we need equity? We need equity in everything. And I thought, what did I do in physics teaching physics that inadvertently hurt people? And that disturbs me, that I was walking around stepping on toes and not realizing any damage I might have been doing with my students. And I certainly could use an example of an equitable situation that people would say, now, this is beautiful, what is happening here. I need to see what I guess I do need a role model. I don't want to stumble around and try to find it on my own. I think maybe my generation dropped the ball somewhere, maybe. And I'm not quite sure what we did wrong. That would require so many people, smart, intelligent people, to say that equity is lacking in the physics classroom. I'm going, wow, I must really be blind.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
I'd rather talk about specific heat. It's like I don't know what to do.
Gary, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was thinking just what Mark was just saying there, and what Steve was saying is, Mark is saying, they're learning physics is this unique world where reality doesn't always fit with what they, think they know. And I think maybe the chance for equity is the same thing. You can combine the two. Well, you're learning these new concepts, these things you never thought about in physics. Can we apply some of these other ideas, social justice ideas and whatever, at the same time? Because if they're learning one new thing, learning another new thing is really now much more difficult. It's already there. Does that make sense?
Drew, you raise your hand.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate what you said, Steve. I would maybe recognize that, or try not to, maybe don't. I mean, it's good that you're sort of reflective on this and recognizing flaws, but I would realize that arguably this has been baked into the system for hundreds of years. Access to sciences in general for most of human for most of human history was only accessible to a certain few people. Not even, it was all men, but not just that. It was men who could afford to be able to pursue sciences. And there are holdovers from decades ago or even hundreds of years ago baked within the system. And so I guess the idea of we're trying to make change, but you should, I guess, recognize that, I guess, we're moving mountains here. These things, they did not come overnight. They've been so fundamentally rooted within the system that it's going to take generations to change. And so I wonder, I'm sort of an up and comer, I guess, in the sense I'm about to finish my PhD and move into this new system, and I'm going to try to help move this mountain. But I recognize that by the time I'm Steve's age or even older, I I wonder like how much progress we'll actually make. But it's, I recognize that I am just the next in a line of people who will come after me, who will are trying to move this mountain. So.
Yeah, I just want to quickly follow up saying that it's definitely a big effort for the whole community, and there will be no like one unique satisfying way to achieving this, right? The most unsatisfying to do is like wait. Like the thing that we need to do is like just act right now. And I hear all of you, like it's so powerful to hear that at least we recognize that this thing has been baked into the system, and this thing has been made to be feeling like science is the enterprise made or the work made by some elite population, because and not humanistic enterprise. Science should be everyone, because in the history everyone has been doing science, right? And just because we limit the access for other people, and we take that because we have the access, like we take that to even like strengthen our power, and like continue to marginalize other people out of the system of power. That is the attitude, or that should be the thing that we carry into our work or carry into our classroom every day. And so, yeah. Is there anything that you would like to discuss from the list, or is it too heavy and we want to move to something else?
If I can just add, Cha, there was this word that I really think will benefit our conversation, right? And this is the word decolonization. So I think it's the statement, let me see where I see it, this one. If the person who wrote it is interested in expanding what they mean by their statement, and then we can see how we can attach it to the conversation we just had right now.
I'm the guilty party. I'm sort of aware that decolonization is a hot word that is used in a lot of different ways for a lot of things that it's not. And I think of Eve Tuck and Jerry Yang wrote an article called "Decolonization is Not a Metaphor," and the idea that they put forward there is that if we think of decolonization as a form of justice, then that needs to be rooted in pushing back against the theft of land from Native people in North America and Australia and Canada and so forth, as well as making reparations for people who are descendants of those who were kidnapped from Africa and brought to the United States and other countries as slaves. And then also trying to find restorative justice to make amends for injustices that have happened over the last hundreds of years. And so I know that's sort of a lens, and Jessica, I can see why you brought it up, but I worry that I'm not sophisticated enough to root my own thoughts in a decolonizing lens, but maybe just thinking about how we can make connections to other broader social movements might be useful.
Yeah, thank you. And I think one of the reasons why I brought up that statement is because like one of the things that we can start doing as physicists is to decolonize the notion of who gets to do science and what do we define science to be, right? Because we know that the Western ways of knowing, which is like the scientific method and everything that it's embodied within what physics is today, doesn't really embody those civilization or those communities of color that have been doing science for generations, right? Like Danny mentioned, there are indigenous communities, there are, descendants of slavery that are still doing science and have been doing science for generations. So when we look at this system that Drew was mentioning, why is it that this system was created to exclude certain people? And when we talk about integrating equity, how can we open those doors that are close to certain people, right? Like, why is it that, for physicists, like, we need a degree in physics to be considered a physicist, right? Why can, the common person in the community be also considered a physicist? And I think that, integrating decolonization within equity allows us to start decolonizing the way that we view science, in particular in this context, physics. Mhm. Any questions so far? And I mean, this is a discussion and we're gonna continue building on as we go. Thank you, Danny, for sharing that.
Thank you, Jessica. That's so powerful.
I guess I got mentioned there, but I mean, I guess it's the question one of the many things that keep me up at night is how what really needs to happen. What are actionable things that we can do? Because it really is the whole everything. The whole thing. I mean, like I say this to my advisor sometimes jokingly, but more often there's a little bit of seriousness in it, that we really just got to throw out the whole course and start over. Like if you were to like it's the idea of like I don't remember who exactly said this, but there's someone who's talking about the idea of like if you were to reinvent the car today, you wouldn't use an internal combustion engine. It's horribly inefficient. Why would you? But because it's so baked into the system, everything is sort of designed. A lot of the car itself is designed with that in mind. And things are changing, I think, now. But I guess the point being is that at a certain point, you can't just put bandages and patches and sort of change your arms and things. Sometimes you need to really just kill it and then restart it. But I don't that maybe is that too radical, or is that it really is that bad though? So I don't know. I'm curious what other people's thoughts are on that.
Hey, Jessica, I appreciate you mentioning the indigenous people doing science without being on a professional track or a physics major track or whatever it was. I came from a long line of ignorant hillbillies with bad teeth. And I was as far away from physics as any indigenous society was. I suppose I had an advantage being a white male in America. I had that Trump card, I guess, in my back pocket that got me out of that situation. I think I would really be interested down the road in two things. I too have thought about, science is for everybody, but not really. It's for people that, well, let's put it this way: a music class at school in high school, they operate under the preposition that everybody's going to study music so well they can become a professional musician. That's kind of the underlying, get in the orchestra, try out. So you end up playing in an orchestra somewhere. And in sports, it's hey, professional ball, man. That's the way it is. The whole thing's lined up to win the state championship. That's our goal for the coach. That's our end game. And what's the end game for physics teachers? Well, a Ph.D. teaching a college, I guess. And do we line ourselves up that way so intensely that Danny's the top of the heap in the world of physics? I guess a Nobel Prize. Danny, you're only second down. I get a Nobel Prize to be at the top. But maybe that's the thing is I still want to keep the Nobel Prize, but maybe that shouldn't be the presumed apex of what we're aiming for. And the second thing, and I'll shut up, all the years that I went to NSTA conventions and I would go to sessions where they would be on a specific topic and they would give us hints. They say, oh, I tried doing this, I tried doing that. Here's the best way to teach specific heat or whatever it was. And you'd pick up an idea and then you'd take it back. And some of those ideas were so powerful that it could just change the way you taught this particular lesson. And I hope that your work doing this will eventually lead to a workshop session where you can sit down and say, look, you go back to your classroom and try this tactic, this tactic, this tactic, and it will help us in the world of equity. And I don't know what those tactics are. And who's doing it right now? I need an article, and I need an article in the journal that says Mark has found this classroom that's doing it. And here's some ideas. And I don't think it's going to take much either. This big mountain that Danny mentioned, it is a big mountain, but I don't think it's going to take that much to move it. I think, being an old military guy, just, if I want to blow up a bridge, I only have to put a little bit of dynamite at a few spots. I'll take the whole thing down. And I think if very well thought out spots in this unequitable situation, we can turn it. We just got to find those. Okay, I'm done. Sermon's over. Okay.
I guess
Please go ahead.
just a quick response, I guess, because the mountain thing I would wonder or argue about because the mountain in this case, it isn't necessarily a bridge, because a bridge doesn't fight back when you're trying to blow it up. I mean, we're 20 in this room, and think about at the number of high school physics teachers who were brought up within the system and who might not be as open to you for a change when you come to them saying, we got to blow this up.
All right.
They're happy with that. Or like the universities, especially, you have like institutional inertia, and I usually say it's inertia and ego are two things that are very difficult to overcome.
Oh, you are a physics teacher, Drew. Oh my God, this is good. You're a tough guy to debate with. I have to get better armed next time.
That's why we're all here, I think.
Oh yeah, that's what it is. I like the old adage, wisdom. Wise men enjoy debate. It's steel sharpening steel. That's that kind of thing.
I agree. Mark, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's wonderful. I'm glad you had a comment. I was just going to say, I was looking through the chat, and there seems to be several questions that center on either looking for specific examples or of a unit or a lesson, but also this idea of access and who is doing physics and who sees themselves as being able to do physics in the future. And some personal stories of students saying that physics wasn't for them, or guidance counselors telling students that physics isn't for them. And I'm curious if anyone's has an interest in sharing more stories about that, or details of or elaborating on those conversations that you may have had with students about access. Yes, Gary, I see.
Yeah, I spent a good share of the winter talking with our guidance department about, what physics can be used for. And spent some time with students who are looking at, they're taking anatomy classes because they want to be doctors and nurses or whatever. And they didn't realize that how much physics was actually involved in some of these careers down the road. So it was definitely worthwhile for me, but I had to go out. I had to be the one to go out and do it if no one else was going to do it. And I think that's something we can do is, make a stand, or go, the worst you can do is someone's going to tell you, no, I don't want your help, but go find someone else who does that. And, physics is everywhere. It's the starting point for all the sciences. And like I say, maybe we just have to go out, spend some more time and effort. Like Mark, does the AAPT ever send out like ambassadors to like guidance counselors, national conventions or stuff like that?
It's a great question. So there are two projects that I work on that are starting to move towards direct communication with guidance counselors and other influencers of students as they are trying to consider physics, which includes families and more formal structures of guidance counselors. One is the Get the Facts Out program, which we are really trying to think about ways that we can show how physics is beneficial in a wide array of career choices, not just becoming a physics professor, but also the Get the Facts Out program, which is really about trying to convince people to be teachers. We're also really looking at kind of who are the influencers in students' lives as they make their career choices, and trying to do some kind of formal studies of who these influencers are and how we can reach them and how we can provide more specific information to them about the benefits of physics in the broad sense, not in the sense of everybody should be a PhD physicist working at a university, but really as what many people have been saying, how is physics relevant to your everyday life or whatever career choice you might be interested in.
But I think like the question of equity go beyond access, achievement, and even identity conversation, right? It should go into, like somebody put it here, like into students' ability and confidence to use the thing that they learn to address this issue that happening in their local and global context in the way that they can feel themselves as, future decision maker, future informed citizen of the globe. Yeah, like in that way, in many ways, we have been teaching physics in such a detached way from reality, from the history, from the social political issue, and so that is something that there are a lot of room for us to improve. I just would like to pay attention to a question in the chat about what is an example to address like equity issue when we teach equity. So I can tell you about what we did in our PD program. So one thing we talk about is that we initiate a conversation about energy concepts having historical and political and economic baggage on it, and it carries into the nowadays, right? So for example, the concept of efficiency was created for a particular purpose during the steam engine era. And that the way that we define efficiency, output, the ratio of output over input really limited the way that we think about what does it mean to be efficient. So nowadays, if we talk about efficiency in the way that, everybody should have access to energy, or how to limit the waste when we create energy, that conversation, or at least that new definition, will give us more space to talk about social, political, the things that really matters, the thing that matters to people's lives. And I know that is just like one prominent example, but at least that's something that we can start with.
So I have a question, sorry, can I just speak out? Just example you shared, and this is what I'm really keen here to learn. So I'm looking for specific example with somebody who did research, because I am not confident to do this, to teach even like what I put in the chat, electric cars. I understand E&M, I understand maybe engine kind of understand. Now putting all these together with on top of it waste and infrastructure and all the economic issues, what is equitable? I am not confident to teach this topic. I'm looking for somebody who like maybe postdocs like you who have already put this together. And that's what, as a high school teacher, I would be really appreciative of. And I feel like my administration always pushes us, teach equity in physics, but like I have no resources to teach it. And like I need a whole PhD, I feel like, to do just on electric cars, besides fusion and other topics. So do you have such resources? That's my question.
Yeah, so Anastasia, is that?
Yeah. Anastasia, yeah.
Yeah. So in our PD program, there are like teachers like you, who like so enthusiastic about this, but like doesn't know where to start with, and they came in, they do their summer workshop, they do their professional learning community things over the year, and they actually created curriculum that they can, or structure that they can ask the student to do things. And so right now we have a portal for energy and equity. I can put the link down here as a beta page. But eventually what we want to develop from this program is that we want to have teacher curriculum contribute their curricula, and then we're gonna share it nationally with other teacher. But yeah, sorry, I'm not sure that if that's helped enough.
And I think I wanted to reemphasize that the professional development started in the summer and is still ongoing. So I think that learning how to integrate equity within the curriculum is like a lifelong process. It's not necessarily something that you can just check off or something that can be as easy as like 3 steps. And I think given that our teachers are still learning of how to incorporate equity and our focus is energy, because as we mentioned, physics is a big system and we're trying to tackle little by little, because otherwise, we're going to try to, and I think, not to call on Drew, but he mentioned the mountain, right? It's a big mountain, it's a big system. So we cannot necessarily move it, especially within a year, and our teachers are still working. So whenever we're going to host another summer professional development, so we're going to recruit a new cohort of physics teachers to take on this year process with us. And once that information and recruitment is out and the application process is out, you can visit our website, the Energy and Equity portal, and the applications will be listed on there.
Just as a curious question, I guess. So these are new physics teachers. Are you, I guess, folding in as well with this, like NGSS, sort of mixing in there as well, or are you just, or is that sort of separate or something?
So for the program, the summer professional development program started with just having these kind of conversations, like what does equity mean and how do we integrate it within physics? Last year, we started talking about reading more of those articles that talk about, equity within physics. And then we had like mostly presentations. Like one of the presentations that we gave was like civil rights and the role it plays within energy and equity. And then this quarter, the teachers are developing their curriculum with our support because we have a large team. And then that curriculum is definitely aligning with NGSS. So that's like a year-long process. And this quarter is when they're going to, they're developing their curriculum. So I think to address the question, will these be public to accessible? Yes, it will be, but they're still under development. So it might be accessible in the summer or next fall.
Sort of like a follow-up to that, if that's all right. I guess my concern would be for some of these new teachers is that they're gonna go into their new jobs and they're going to be faced with the mountain, basically, or they're going to be faced with perhaps other physics teachers who've been there for 10, 20, 30 years, or with administrations who want them to teach in particular ways. And so my concern, I guess, would be like, it's going to be great in the summer and during these workshops, but then when it comes time to actually applying it, they face the resistance and they potentially even they crumble, or they fall back into the old ways. And so I'm curious what, I guess, each of your thoughts are on that, and what sort of mechanisms are in place to sort of be able to, I don't know, help support the teachers long term beyond even just the first year.
Hey, Drew, I think the evidence of what you just said is I'm looking at the screen with all the faces. Nobody's smiling. This is the first coffee thing I've been to where everybody, ugh. So I tell you, it gives you a hint. This is like, I'm an old physics teacher. I thought, oh, I've got to work equity into it, and I'm in favor of this. I would back it 1,000%. But it's like saying, hey, by the way, you got to go get some root canal done too. It's like, wow, I'm gonna get my teeth drilled and work on equity and physics. This is gonna be good. I don't know. Now some people are smiling. Thank God. Okay, we're all right then. Never mind.
Yeah, and I think it's important to mention that our professional developments are not just for first new teachers. We select teachers who have years of experience, teachers who are working in southern states where, it's more conservative, where there's a political climate that, doesn't necessarily leave an open door for discussions about equity. So I think being able to navigate that and creating a space where we have teachers from all walks of life allows us also to see and learn from each other, right? Have that multi-directional learning where they're not just learning from us, we're also learning from them, and they're learning from each other, if that answers your question. Cha, I don't know if you have anything to say.
Yeah, Mark.
I just wanted to, Arthur put a great question in the chat, and a couple people have kind of bumped it back up, and I just want to make sure that we get to it because I think it's an interesting one. Is clearly the issues of equity and access in physics, there's lots of entry points. Why did you pick energy as the entry point versus other choices that you could have made as topically?
Yeah. And so I'm saying this under behalf of my advisor, which is Amy Robinson and Rachel Scher. And so they start thinking about energy and equity because energy is such a cross-cutting concept. It's everywhere, it's play such an important role in all of the decisions that we make in the day. And then at the end of the day is where a student can see physics most often. And the other reason why we do that, because practically we have been doing professional development for teacher in terms of how to teach energy. So we help teacher to implement like new representation when they teach energy. It just happened that we have this expertise in working with teacher about energy, and it feels like energy and equity is a good steps for exploring and for supporting teacher.
So I guess also to ask you a little bit more on that, when you say using energy as an entry point and the professional development around energy, was that the kind of traditional topics of energy in the sense of potential energy, kinetic energy, energy conversion, those things, or are we talking about energy production and energy use, and as you brought up, efficiency and steam engines and kind of that side of the energy?
Yeah, so we definitely approach energy from multiple levels. So we do talk about energy as, potential energy, kinetic energy, dynamic stuff. When we talk about energy representation in energy lesson, but then we also acknowledge that our physics teacher also teach chemistry, environmental science, they teach multiple disciplines. And so a lot of them are really enthusiastic talking about, social aspect and technical aspect of energy. So energy production, or how energy, convert from water, or like from the wind, from the solar, and then how we convey the energy across the country. So we talk about all of that. And yeah, not surprisingly, some topics have more space to talk about social issue than other, but yeah. Yeah, so Jessica is working on is an expert in energy justice, and that is like a more focused lens into social justice from the energy context. So if you would like to hear her talk more about that, you can request her now.
Well, I would like to just follow up on this, and I was really curious as to when we talk about energy as a cross-cutting concept in terms of activation energy and chemistry and ATP in biology and kinetic energy in physics, where are the equity and social issues in those topics? Not energy as a resource, the inequitable distribution of resources. That's almost easy, low-hanging fruit. I think there are equity and social justice issues when we talk about activation energy and photosynthesis, purely scientific concepts. And that's what I was hoping to hear about. Are you touching on those things in your work?
Yeah, so I know that we are just in the exploratory stage of this work, but an example of efficiency is one thing that we mentioned as one example of how we address that, energy concepts or any science concepts has their historical and baggage that serve for a particular population, but not other population. And so we also talk a little bit about, objectivity and subjectivity. And so that conversation opened doors into more critiques of the physics canon that you are talking about. But definitely we are still in learning phase, and we are still learning that.
And I think to add to that, one of the things that we're pushing the envelope on is having energy as an abstract concept within physics and actually making it something that actually is applicable to our everyday life and how that manifests within our intersectionalities, which mean our identities, our gender, race, and everything else that embodies us as a person. And I think that by doing that, we're able to stop seeing energy as this abstract concept and looking at how it's actually applicable, like you mentioned, and how it's the photosynthesis, everything, kinetic energy actually is applicable to equity and not just seeing it as an abstract concept. Because when we look at the NGSS or we look at the curriculum for high school teachers, energy still continues to be taught as this abstract concept within the realm of physics.
You brought up NGSS, and what's interesting about that is that energy is one of the cross-cutting ideas that runs through all of the content areas, not just physics. As Arthur was saying, it shows up in activation energy in chemistry and photosynthesis and biology. So it does seem that there's opportunities to touch in on that across all these different areas. And of course, we all are biased towards physics because physics is great. But the reality of it is that, half of the physics teachers in this country teach something else as well. So taking an approach that provides a cross-cutting connection seemed wise.
Yeah. And so, I mentioned a academic year-long professional learning community. Jessica was one of the person who directly coached the high school teacher in that community. And they actually decided eventually to build energy lesson in their environmental science and chemistry classes as well, which is cool, Yeah. So high school teacher gotta do lots of work. So we only have a couple of minutes left. Is there any last thoughts that you would like to share or any question?
Hey, Mark, this is Jake again. Hello, Arthur. I'm glad you're still alive, Arthur.
Thank you, Jake.
All right, so whatever. Hey, I'd like to give you guys some roses, a box of chocolates. So while you were talking, I just typed into Google search, show me images of group photo of physicists. What do you think I got? Can I show you, Mark? Can I share? Or is that too hard?
Is it something other than the Sauvé conference?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm sitting there looking at this. I said, it goes on. It's like it's page after page of a bunch of old white men standing there looking like they're just meaner than heck. And I had to go down like 30 rows to find a female I'm going, well, what? Where are they? And you know what I found? The first group of females in physics were from physics world. Let's keep talking about equity in physics. And there's 9 ladies sitting there smiling. So I guess they're standing at the base of the mountain. You know, I don't know. The Solve, yeah, you're right. That's what it is. So I let everybody do the search. Yeah.
So as we near the end here, I guess I just wanted to ask, you know, if we are excited. I mean, there's clearly an excitement around this topic. People are interested in getting resources and interested in making a difference. What's the easiest way for the high school teachers here or the high school teachers that we all know to get involved with your program?
Thank you so much, Mark. So we want to reach out to more and more teachers to hear about their practice, their experience with this topic. So we are recruit teachers to a opportunity of doing interview with us, just to share your experience, and your experience will shape the way that we think about energy and equity and how we're going to build the professional development in the future. And so that is one opportunity. Thank you, Jessica, for putting the flyer and the forms there. And in the future, if you want to reach out to us, please watch out for our summer workshop in probably summer. And then once in a while, we will let you know if our website or our portal are open to the public. Thank you so much, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, everyone.
As we say, as people sign off, I think it was Drew. Did I interrupt you with one final comment, or?
I had a question. You know, I'm just gonna email Jessica and Tra. I'm just gonna email them. I don't want to keep everybody here. I would. So I'll just email them. But maybe save it for the next. We're at time. So.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We'll be back in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Mark.
Yes, thank you. That was fun. You know, you can see that people come to learn, and they're hungry for information, and you know, they like to talk about things. You know, it's the community of AAPT. So I think it was good, and I very much appreciate the two of you coming and talking about your program.
Thank you. So we're gonna follow up with you, send you the recruitment letter. And then perhaps in the future, if we would like to reach out to the teacher about the summer workshop and all, perhaps we can think about another coffee workshop, like coffee hour or so.
Sure, absolutely. And there's also, you know, the AAPT summer meeting, which is coming up in August.
Yeah.
And I believe the abstract call is closed for that. But if that is something that you might be interested in presenting at more specifically to teachers, that is something that I can get you in the schedule and help you with that if you would like.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Thank you.
I just want to say my webcam is blurry. I'm originally from India, and I taught in a community college for like 32 years. And I was listening to the whole discussion, and thank you for bringing it up. Oh my God, this is a topic that should be brought up, because I must say that there were many things that I myself did with my own 2 hands, and people higher ups thought I didn't do it because I'm a woman. It was done by a man. So this has come up several times, and I just had to raise my voice and be loud and louder. And that's what we have to encourage our women folk to do, and come up and speak up like you just did. Undergrad was in India, physics, and I didn't get this feeling that a woman is not all there. But when I came to UMass Amherst, I was asked by my professors, oh my God, how come a woman is in physics, graduate school? So it's just what our perceptions are. And I am hats off to both of you for bringing this topic up. And we can do just a little bit to change the perception. So, just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Thank you for voicing that. Thank you so much. Yeah.